I think you were going to ask me, if I'm right, whether I'd always been a Baroque flute player or whether I had in fact been a modern flute player previously.
Well, I am privy to this information, but our viewers are not.
Right.
So perhaps you'd like to fill them in.
Well, it's true. I admit it. I did play modern flute before. I've always been obsessed with Bach, though, on modern flute as well, and I think that's what prompted me to want to learn the Baroque flute, because a lot of Bach's works don't work that well on modern instruments. Some good examples are the Brandenburgs. Brandenburg 2 and Brandenburg 5 both require juxtapositions of very quiet instruments, and modern flute and harpsichord don't work as a balance, and recorder and trumpet, modern trumpet, don't work as a balance. So I had no choice. I had to take the plunge if I wanted to play these pieces right, and I moved over to the Baroque side.
The dark side.
I was going to say the light side. It was the more colourful side, actually, I'd say, because although they're perhaps not as loud, Baroque instruments are more colourful, more complex.
The Feinstein Ensemble and the London Bach Singers will be coming together to perform on the 22nd of September at St Martin's. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, the main work, I suppose, in the concert is Trauerode. It's called Trauerode, but it's in fact Cantata 198, and it's the largest of Bach's cantatas.
That translates to mournful ode?
How does Trauerode? Funeral ode.
Funeral?
Funeral poem. I don't know. There's no real translation for it. It's a funeral cantata, but it's a secular cantata, funnily enough. But it contains some of Bach's most wonderful music. It's something I'm looking forward to very much.
And the first item on the programme, Ich habe genug?
Ich habe genug. It's another cantata connected with death. Bach had a thing about death, but actually, funnily enough, a lot of his death cantatas are very joyous cantatas, because of course he was a good Christian, and he believed that when he died things would get a lot better than they are now. He had quite an onerous existence, bullied by his superiors for many years in his main job, and Ich habe genug is saying, this is enough of this life, I'm fulfilled, enough of this earthly existence, let me be now transfigured and sent to a better place.
We were talking about the difference between the Baroque and the contemporary flute.
Yes, they're very different. There's a marked difference in that. There are counterparts to modern instruments, like, for example, the Baroque oboe, Baroque cello, Baroque violin. They are different from their modern counterparts. For example, the violin has no chin rest, the cello has no spike, they use gut strings. But the difference between a Baroque flute and a modern flute is far more marked. The sound is completely different. The modern flute is designed for power, and power is the absolute priority. A Baroque flute is designed for colour, the complexity of colour, and they were aiming for a vocal sound, something that would imitate the human voice. Obviously it's made out of wood, usually boxwood or ebony. It has only one key, as opposed to the huge array of keys we have in a modern flute. And this gives a technical difficulty to the Baroque flute, which is on another level to modern flute. The sound is exquisite, and there's very little key rattle, there's no lip plate. It's rather like playing a modern flute or being a trapeze artist, let's say, without a safety net, on a very thin wire which has been greased. So it's quite a scary feeling, like bareback horse riding, something like that.
When you talk about a voice, obviously we can't say, oh, this voice is 200 years old, but presumably there is a style in which these singers who specialise in Baroque performance sing, which is different to contemporary styles?
Well, the great thing about having a set of singers that are combined with us on a regular basis is that we get to work as a unit. and this means that we can unify our style. Baroque musicians tend to sing, they don't sing at all actually, they play, but they tend to play with very little vibrato, and they tend to, rather than swoop up to notes as modern players would do, they tend to hit them straight on. I'm not saying modern players play out of tune, but they tend to have a different attitude to intonation. The Baroque player is more direct, there's less vibrato to hide behind, so and this equates very much to consort singing, where a group of singers will sing with very little vibrato as a unit. If you hear madrigals being sung, you'll hear that style. And this works beautifully with Bach chorales and also for Bach choruses. And because these singers are so technically good, they can sing entire choruses of, say, B minor mass, and with one voice per part, and it sounds absolutely exquisite, very in tune, very unfussy.
So there's a real clarity.
There's a clarity, there's a very touching quality to it, which you won't find in a perhaps operatic setting.
Do you think this sound, this clarity, this intimacy of sound reflects the nature of the performance venues at the time? Is there any link between the two?
There is a link actually, funnily enough, because these works would have been performed in the church in Leipzig where Bach was employed, and the balcony for the musicians and singers was quite tiny. There's no question he would have used single singers for each part, and this is a great clue to how we're always trying to work out what Bach would have wanted, and I think that's the right thing to do. And I think there's a big clue here. For example, B minor mass, there's only one set of singing parts that were written out, and clearly one voice per part is meant here. It's unthinkable that every single vocal part has only one surviving part. So it's probably quite likely that only one part was used. And when we look at the size of the balcony where they would perform these works, you couldn't have fitted more than one singer on.
So in fact the conditions, the acoustic, are going to be very similar for your concert here on the 22nd at St Martin in the Fields.
Absolutely, this church is perfect for this repertoire. It was built at the time the works were written. In fact, two of the cantatas that we're playing were written in 1727. I think that might even be the year that this church was consecrated.
It was the year it was finished. It was consecrated in 1726
and
then finished in 1727.
Right, well, one of the cantatas is 1725, so we've got a good average there. And two of them 1727. So, I mean, it's quite clear. This is the right church.
This is perhaps an unfair question and asking you to choose a favourite child, but is there anything in particular which is a favourite moment of yours in this upcoming programme which we should be listening out for?
Oh dear. Well, actually, no, yes, there is. The very opening of the first chorus of Cantata 107, which is one of the most magical moments you could possibly imagine. It starts off with a single note in the oboes and violin, quiet, and then crescendoing, and then the rest of the orchestra enters. Marvellous moment.
Just before we let you go, is there anything else that we should be looking forward to for the Feinstein Ensemble and London Bach Singers?
Let me think. Oh yes, October, we're coming back to St Martin's and we're performing cantatas on the 27th of October. Actually we're performing 4 cantatas on that day, and one of them, I think the last one in the programme, is Mit Frieden freudig fahr dahin, which is 125, with in peace and joy I travel there, meaning travelling to death. It's another one of his death cantatas. Don't put off, it's absolutely joyful. It's like a sort of miniature Matthew Passion, absolutely beautiful. And then we're coming back in December for a Christmas oratorio, which we did last year, which was an enormous success. I'm looking forward to that again. And that's on the 26th of November.
November?
That's right.
Fantastic. Well, we should very much look forward to seeing you on the 22nd of September. Thank you so much for your time.